Hey guys, welcome back to the Golf Podcast. This is episode number 293. In a minute, we're going to have a special guest on the show. We're going to be speaking with Corey Gerrard, who is the Global Product Marketing Manager for Titleist Golf Clubs. And there's a reason we're going to have him on the show. Just very recently, Mike, you and I, we got fit for the new Titleist T-Series Irons, something that we've been hinting at and chatting about a little bit here on the show for the last couple weeks. If you guys follow along, last year we got fit for the AP3 irons, and what was it, Mike? Now, like 2 months ago, a month ago, that the T Series dropped.
Yeah, I think about a month ago.
Yeah, and since then, a lot of hype. We've heard a lot of good things, and we've had a lot of you messaging us, asking us if we're going to give them a try and give our feedback on them. So, of course, we wanted to get to do that, and then what really put us over the edge, Sprecher messaged us. Actually, no, he didn't message us. He saw us. I'm remembering now. It was like a month ago. We saw him at the meetup in Paramus.
Right.
And he's like, guys, I made the switch. You got to come back and try these out. Right. So he's in T200s. So we did it, booked it, went down with him, did the fitting, learned a lot as always. That video, the full video is going to be dropping in just a couple days now. So make sure you guys check it out. And that we always have fun with. I just kind of like to just let that process play out and just learn from it. We learned a lot from just working with Kevin. We always do. I learned some new things about fittings, and we've done a lot. We've covered club fittings a lot on the podcast, especially over the last 12 months. And yet I still learned quite a few things. So there's some interesting little nuggets in there. There's a special surprise in the video, so stay tuned for that as well. But we're going to, like I said, we're going to bring Corey on. I want to just, he's the one who's going to have that real knowledge about what went into designing and creating and what was the thought process behind the new line of irons. And I always like to also get that aspect. I like to talk to the manufacturers and find out what goes in their heads from an engineering standpoint and what type of things go into to help us play the game better. So I'm excited for that. How about you, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. And even more excited. I'm going to get you excited for a second because today I got a UPS box delivered to the office, and it is the T-Series irons. So they have arrived.
Nice. Have you peeked yet?
No.
That's it. You better wait for me.
I'm waiting for you. We're going to unbox these things tomorrow. We're going to film it. We're going to bring it live to you guys. We're going to bring it out there because we always have fun doing that. But I'm excited to get him in the bag. I'm excited to talk to Corey tonight because I want to kind of recap what Sprech what we discovered out there. There was a lot of like juicy nuggets of information from our golf game. And don't get me wrong, AP3's phenomenal. And I know you agree. Mm-hmm. But these just felt a little bit better, at impact, and I'll talk to Corey a little bit more about that, but I want to know why, you know what I mean? Like, I want to know, what is it that you guys did? Because you have such a great line of the AP. How'd you make it even better?
And that was the challenge for me, even going into it. I was a little bit hesitant because I have been playing so well with the AP3s. I almost don't want to mix it up, but,
what, you put a 5-iron at 4 feet the other day?
Yeah.
Yesterday?
Yeah. Dude, I'm hitting them really well. But I brought that up to Kevin, and he made a really good point. And he was like, listen, they have to continue to work on making the clubs better because you got guys at the PGA Tour level who this is their livelihood. They're staking, a lot of money on this. And they're not going to want to make a change unless there's an improvement. So not only are they designing these clubs for us, they're designing these clubs for that highest level. There's a lot of guys on tour now who are playing the T100s, even some T200s, things like that. So it's the same clubs. So if you think you got to impress us, you've really got to impress them. Right. And stay tuned. Even if, like I said, if you're not somebody who's currently playing Titleist, or if you don't play Titleist, that's fine. You're still going to get something out of this interview for sure. Even if you're not, currently interested in the T-Series irons. We learned, like I said, so much, just the thought process of what goes into designing clubs, that no matter what type of equipment you play, you have something you can apply that to. And I believe that about the videos, and especially about the fitting process. I said the real gold goes into that fitting process and how important that is. But anyway, before we bring him on the show, the other thing I wanted to talk about, Mike, today was another major milestone. It marked the last day of the Scotland series, episode 10. So sad to see the series end. It was so much fun putting that series together. playing, filming, editing, producing those videos.
Oh yeah.
Sharing, most importantly, when we finally got the opportunity to share those videos, because a lot of work went into it going up to that point that we were really chomping at the bit. So, really exciting in a lot of ways, but it is sad to see it come to an end. However, I think the exciting part of it is we know we're going to be doing this again. We're going to be doing a couple more series like this.
To say. I said it just almost makes you feel like we need to do that once a year. You know what I mean? It's just to get out there and just to bring all of that content to life. I mean, it was a blast, like you said. And guys, by the way, the comments that have been coming in, a lot of comments about how well the series was received, really means a lot to us. I love reading that. I know you do as well, Frank. But some of the comments today, I mean, I'm sure you saw them, Frank. Just some guys out there saying how the series was just so great. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to bring a great series from Scotland, 10 rounds, 6 days, 2 average Joe golfers doing it right. And that's exactly what it was. So big thanks to everyone who tuned in on that.
Yeah, our goal was really to just bring you guys along with us, entertain you as much as possible. So the fact of and hearing that feedback, like you said, really does mean a lot to us. And yeah, we're going to be doing a lot more, and we're going to be even possibly doing some local domestic series and things like that. We appreciate the suggestions. A lot of people have messaged us with suggestions, whether it be in the comments or DMing us or whatever, of other things, other types of series we can do. Keep those coming. We heard a great one the other day of just saying, one person had said, just do a series of hidden gems just in our area, in the New York, New Jersey area. And that's something we could do. So there's a lot of fun stuff up, it's golf. Look, what is there, like 5,000 golf courses in the States alone? There's no limit to how far we can take it. And we have a lot of fun doing it. And we're also working on even putting together a kind of a bonus. We don't have a timeline for this yet, but a little bonus episode 11, where we can show you guys some of the behind the scenes and extra footage that didn't make it into the final cuts. So stay tuned for that as well, because that'll be fun.
Can't wait, man.
All right, what do you say?
Let's do our
because I don't want to keep Corey waiting. Let's do a quick word from our sponsors, and then we're gonna bring him on right now. First off, a special thank you to Titleist for sponsoring tonight's episode. The Titleist T-Series Irons represent an entirely unique approach to iron engineering, built from the ground up. Powered by breakthrough technology, including new Max Impact, they deliver a balance of power and performance unlike anything Titleist has ever made. And yet, with one swing, you're still going to feel that they are 100% pure Titleist. We got to witness them firsthand, which we talked about, and that is going to be the topic of tonight's show. We've been fitted. The fitting process, as I said, is key to really getting the most out of your new clubs, whether it be irons or whatever. But it's time for you guys to check out the T-Series for yourself. Visit Titleist.com to learn more.
Yeah, and big thanks to ShotScope. If you're new to the show, I want to mention this. The ShotScope V2, it's the world's smartest golf watch. It's the one you most likely see us wearing in our videos and also out on the course. I mean, ShotScope has over 40,000 courses mapped. They offer incredible stat tracking technology, which, as you know, will help you off of the course as well. I mean, of course, it offers the laser-like GPS. I mean, we've tested the distances on a rangefinder, and it's easily one of the most accurate GPS watches I've ever used.
By far.
By far. Yeah. I mean, all the data of your golf game with the stats is right there at your fingertips. You visit the dashboard after your round. You get everything right there. So do yourself a favor. Get yourself a ShotScope V2. Visit shotscope.com/Golficity or just use code V2 Golficity at checkout for $30 off. And lastly, guys, Footjoy, the #1 outerwear brand in golf, ensures that you can make every day playable with performance golf gear to handle any weather condition. I'm laughing because yesterday we both were prepared for the rain that came when we stepped off the 18 green. It was perfect timing, but we were prepared.
We were.
Right? We had the rain pants. We had the bucket hats. Guys, check them out. All Footjoy products are designed to provide the best golf experience regardless of the conditions. And we just talked about it. Footjoy got us through those 10 rounds in Scotland.
Where we saw every type of weather.
Every weather, man. Yeah. You name it. We saw 3 different types of weather in one round. It was incredible. Yeah. I'm surprised we didn't even get hail that day. You know, we could have easily. But trust the brand that has been #1 forever. Learn how you can make every day playable at footjoy.com/MEDP.
All right, Mike, what do you say we bring Corey on the show?
Let's do it.
All right, so guys, we want to welcome Corey Gerrard, who's the Global Product Marketing Manager for Titleist Golf Clubs, to the show. Corey, it's great to have you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So before we dig into the T-Series, and there's a lot of stuff we want to dive into because Mike and I just had a very exciting fitting for the T-Series irons. But can you just give us a little bit of a background into yourself and what you do with Titleist?
Yeah, sure. I've been with the company just over 6 years now, so I'm a golf professional by trade, obviously from Australia, and relocated here to the US earlier this year. And so I've got a long history as a player, a teaching pro, and then worked my way into fitting, which you guys have just experienced in the last week or so, and really built from there into the golf club business.
Wow. So only just your first year in the States, huh?
First 4 months.
Wow. How you enjoying it so far?
Well, we like sunshine and we like warm weather, so SoCal's delivered that so far.
Yes,
there you go.
There are definitely worse places you could have wound up, that's for sure.
We found a good one, that's for sure.
So kind of just diving right into it, the first thing that I wanted to get an idea of was a little bit of the motivation that went into the T-Series. And the reason I asked that, the AP line was so well received just across the board, and especially from our own unique experience. We really played well. We saw some real improvements since going through the fitting last year. And I'll tell you the truth, there was even a little bit of hesitation on my part when you're playing so well with clubs of jumping into something new. But there was a lot of people who were telling us, and we were starting to hear those good rumblings about the T-Series, and a lot of people saying, when are you going to try them? So no matter what, I was going to get out there and test it, and I'm glad I did. But just generally speaking, when you have something that's performing that well, what is your motivation? You just trying to outdo yourself, or what do you do to kind of dive into the next series?
Well, it's a really good question. And, AP has been a great series for us for over a decade now. And like you said, they're great performing golf clubs, but it really came about from our R&D team coming to us time and time again saying, you know what, we've made this change. We've got this new technology, and all of these things started to add up to the fact where we're looking across the table at each other going, you know what, there really is nothing in common with AP2 or AP3 here. I think there's a natural comparison for players. I've been an AP2 player, so there's a natural comparison for me to go, hey, I want to have a look at T100. But when we boil down to some of the changes in technology and the features of the golf clubs, it really felt a little unfair to just call them the next series of AP. They really were something very, very different. And that's how we came to T-Series.
Gotcha. And then what are some of, I guess, the highlights, some of the big things that you really hit on in that engineering process when you're developing the T-Series?
Well, it moved from something like a tour plate iron, like a T100, coming from AP2 all the way to some of the new technologies we've got in T200 and 300, like max impact technology. But going back to that tour plate iron, AP2s have been the number one plate iron on the worldwide tours for a long, long time. So number one, tour players don't want us to ruin that. Right. They want to improve on it where we can. And it's been so popular because, quite frankly, players come to us and they're saying, hey, I'm getting that look from a thin top line. You're giving me less and less offset each time. It goes great through the turf. And you're telling me all of that cool stuff is under the hood. It's there to help me. Why would I look anywhere else? And we've had a lot of MB players switch to T100 for that fact. It's thinner on the top, there's less offset, and there's some really cool stuff going on inside of it. And even underneath it, we worked really hard with Jordan Spieth for the last 2.5 to 3 years on turf interaction and improving the camber on the sole. And for your listeners on the cast, it's a really important one just to get down to the fact of, hey, this goes easy into the turf, but it also comes easy out of the turf on the other side. And working on that means that we can get a more consistent ball flight window, more consistent trajectories, and of course distance control. So that's really who this club, the T100, is for. Someone who really wants precise distance control, and they're getting a great look and feel with that as well.
It makes a lot of sense. And we experienced that firsthand. The turf interaction was one of the first things we pointed out, and we were working with Kevin Sprecher, who's doing the fitting, and he was kind of like showing us, you're feeling that and that difference. And it was something like kind of like night and day. So could you just, dive into that a little bit deeper, just from like a non-engineer's, more of a layman's perspective of how you accomplished that to change the way the club itself interacted with the turf?
Yeah, essentially, the flatter the sole on the club, the sharper that leading edge is going to be. You think of wedges for a minute, similar kind of idea to it there. So what we did was we added more camber to it, so a little bit more rounded on the sole and rounded on that leading edge. So it definitely helps get into the turf, but it really keeps going faster through the turf and out the other side of the divot. So you're maintaining ball speed on your shot, which means you're really going to maintain that distance control as well.
And then also with that would come a lot of consistency. I think that's something us as more of a mid-level handicapper, we struggle with. And so if we have that little bit better interaction, we're making a cleaner strike more often, because unlike tour players, we're not getting the same strike every time. Our ball striking is not at that level. So I think that's where any bit of technology is much appreciated on our end.
Absolutely. And it's one that it's not easy to see, but it's definitely one to feel. And I know when we launched this on tour, we were fitting our tour players, and we had a lot of feedback where they said, I can't explain it, but it feels like I'm flushing it. I mean, that was the feel. It's a good, solid feel from a solid forged iron, but it's really getting through that turf. And like you said, for a mid-handicapper who wants to get that better feeling through the turf, we all know what it's like to chunk one a little bit or catch one a little thin. We don't want to go searching for that feel. So it really inspires confidence if it can keep just doing it for us through that turf interaction.
Right. And then now do we experience that through the line, the 200 and the 300 as well? You kind of use that same technology?
We do, yeah. So each generation we refine that, and we really start with tour player feedback and work through from there. And it's a very similar feeling that doesn't matter if you're a tour player or a low or a mid or a high handicap. There's a lot of things in common that we have as golfers, and feel is one of those, and turf interaction is hugely important. So we try and incorporate those through the range.
Gotcha. And then tell me a little bit of the thinking. I want to jump to the other end of the T300s, because we got to work with those a little bit. And I actually ended up, this is my first ever mixed set. So I ended up going with the my 4 and 5 iron in the T300 to get a little bit more forgiveness from those long irons, and then the T200, down through the rest of the set. That's something that I hadn't done before, but and even for me, I'm an 11 handicap, and I just found that just helped me. That gave me that little bit of help that I needed. So, could you tell us a little bit more about what went into that?
Yeah, I mean, all of us, doesn't matter what level golfer we are, we drop off at some point in ball speed. So from a pure fitting point of view, we like to try and see 5 miles of ball speed between each iron in the set. And at some point, all of us, we drop off at that point. And it might be a 4 iron, it might be a 5 iron for someone where that gap in ball speed actually closes down, and it becomes so close that you're kind of hitting the 4 and 5 iron the same distance through the air. So we try and work on that. So I'm glad to hear that you've gone through the fitting process and seen that experience. Don't for a minute think that it's funky or it's weird, because it's really fitting, horses for courses. At some point, your fitter, Kevin, would have decided that, hey, we're just losing ball speed a little bit around about 6 to 5 iron. So we're going to extend it into something that's a little bit stronger, something that can help us on off center hits, launch it higher, launch it faster, just to maintain that ball speed so that you keep a nice consistent gap through the set, because there's nothing worse than having 2 clubs in the bag doing the same thing. You might as well just keep one in the garage, right?
Yeah, right. It's a complete waste at that point.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was really enlightening going through the fitting experience again and getting to do that testing. What I think I liked most about the line was it just felt like there was kind of something in there for everyone when you went from the T100 through the T300. It was, I think it's pretty much every golfer is gonna be able to fit to something there. Was that part of the motivation of thinking it as an entire series rather than separate series, so to speak?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're looking for precise distance control and you want a real tour iron in terms of look and feel, it's T100. That's simple. If you're the greedy guy, I like to call them, the player that, I'm one of them, so I can put my hand up, that player who really wants the look and feel of a tour played iron, but they kind of know that they need the distance help and the forgiveness help of a game improvement iron, that's T200. That's a combination of both. And then T300 is a really interesting one too, where that player, we're calling it a player's improvement iron, because the looks and feel are great on this product. That player with maybe it's a higher handicap or someone who just needs more consistency, they already know they need help launching it. They need help hitting it a little further. They just don't want to be reminded of it every time with a giant, goofy-looking golf club that they're looking down at.
Right.
So we've shown a paid respect to them by making the top line thinner, again, less offset, and we've made it progressive all the way through our irons, by the way. They're progressive designs. So what we mean by that is the long irons are longer from heel to toe, and then they get slightly shorter each iron as we get down to a nice, short, compact-looking 9-iron pitching wedge. And that's an easy transition into their wedges from there as well. So that player, they know they need the help, but they don't want to be looking down at a goofy-looking short iron.
Right. And I that was the word I was going to use to describe it too. It looked very compact to me when I was looking at it, but also not so compact that it looked too small. Almost gives you a little bit of that concern, like you're trying to hit like a butter knife, or something like that out there. So it's got just kind of enough meat to it, but not too much was my feeling.
Yeah, it's a good balance from our team. It's always a tricky one. We want to compact it where we can and make it look nice and clean. That's what our player expects. But also you run that fine line of, hey, if we go too small, then we're going to take away some of the confidence from that player. So we don't want that. And, one of that was, one of those things I should say was T200 as well. Both T200 and T300, we've introduced a new technology called max impact technology. And in really simple terms, the whole idea of that is to increase ball speed or maximize ball speed across the entire face. So like you said before, all three of us on the court, we don't hit it out in the middle all the time.
Right.
But we want to make sure that we've got consistency of strike and ball speed. So we're really talking to golfers this year about a three-dimensional fitting. You guys have just been through it, but 3Ds, absolutely, we want you to hit it further. So the first D is distance, but responsible distance through carry distance. The second one is dispersion. We talk a lot about left to right dispersion, but I want to make sure too that your slight miss, you've got front to back dispersion. In other words, we want to make sure that your slight miss, you can carry that front bunker, still land it on the green and stop it. And then the third D is descent, so angle of descent. We want to make sure that we're giving you the best possible opportunity to launch the ball in the air, get it going with extra speed, and then stop it at the other end on the green, because it doesn't matter where you play in the world, there's nothing good coming from the back of being over the back of the green. So you want to make sure that you've got the ability to stop that.
Well, Corey, you nailed it right there. I was going to jump in and mention one of the findings in my fitting was, number one, dispersion was tighter. It was great to see that right away, and distance was there. We were hitting 7 irons, and it was traveling a lot further than the AP3. Well, not a lot. I shouldn't use the word a lot, but we saw improved distance. I will say that. However, the big thing that stuck out is that Kevin wanted me to launch the ball higher in the air. I believe I was at about 65 feet with the 7-iron, and when I was hitting the T200, he got me up to 90 feet. And I noticed that a lot. I'm looking at my stats now, green in regulation, 24%. I'm a 12 handicap, right? So I don't really hold greens that well. I wanted the ability to come in higher, come in and hold greens with the 7-iron, 8-iron, because I'm coming in lower, hitting greens, going off the back, have to chip. You know how it goes. 2-putt for us, 12 handicappers. It's an easy bogey or double bogey. So that was one of the most unique findings there. Tell me a little bit about that. How do you get, for the average golfer, layman's terms, that trajectory, had that to go up higher with the simple club change?
Good question. We have really cool technology under the hood of the golf club. So it's kind of the cool stuff that you can't see. So number one, max impact is there to increase that ball speed off the face. So right behind a very thin face, we have a small polymer core that our golf ball R&D team actually worked very closely with our golf club design team on. They've got great experience designing cores. So the two of them work together to get something right behind the face that helps that, but it preserves that feel and the sound. So that was number one, get the speed. Number two, we use a heap of tungsten in the bottom of our golf clubs. In the T200, there's over 90 grams of tungsten in the heel and toe of the club. And the whole goal of that is to drive down the center of gravity, which helps us launch it higher. And we throw it out in the heel and toe as well, so that if you do hit it off center, it's a much more stable strike. So in layman's terms, we've got a third of the club head sitting right down the bottom of the club in the heel and toe, driving down that weight and that mass, which helps us launch the ball easier in the air. So that's what gives us the ability through the three different, 100, 200, 300, as those numbers go up in ascending order, so too does the size of the club, the amount of technology, and the launch and the distance that we can get from those as well. So, launching that, it also allows us to have slightly stronger lofts in the T200 and T300. So it's going to give you better ball speed. But remember, there's more tungsten in it to help you launch it. So there's a great combination of launch and speed, getting that ball going through the air.
And that was a big goal for me going into it, was the consistency and as far as dispersion, because I was getting plenty of distance with the AP3s. I really didn't need a whole lot more distance, but where I did need it was on those miss hits, those off center strikes. So for example, like you're saying, I'm not always hitting in the same spot on the face. So when I do have, like, let's say I come up short on a green, it might just be because I missed the ball a little bit out towards the toe or in towards the heel, and it just takes a little bit off of it. And the kind of exactly what you're describing is what we saw very clearly with Mike's fitting. I'm remembering back to this, and we'll see it more in the video, but Mike's front to back dispersion was higher with the AP3 versus the T200. And what we did in our fitting, Kevin always starts by just changing out the head using the same shaft, so we can compare just one aspect before dialing in the shaft. So same shaft, only difference was the head. And we looked at it on the TrackMan, and Mike's front to back dispersion was higher with the AP3. So that I think kind of sheds light on what you're saying, the technology that kind of went into it. We saw it in the results there, is what I'm saying.
Well, I really like that, and I like to keep things pretty simple. So, Mike, if we're playing off 12 and we're saying that we're hitting around about, was it 20% of greens in reg? To get to 9 is only 2 less chips and 1 less putt, right? So imagine if we go way back to the fairway, you've just hit a great drive down the middle of the fairway, you're standing there, knowing that you've got that consistency from left to right, but certainly from front to back. That's going to help your decision making be a lot more consistent, and certainly confirm it in your own mind. And then you can pull the trigger and hit this club onto the green more often. So I think that really does inspire that confidence to go, hey, I know my numbers now. I know a slight miss is still going to get there, or if it doesn't, I'm going to change golf club.
I think that's where you hit the nail on the head. And that's what Kevin had said in the fitting, was he's like, look, it's a game of misses. We're trying to make the misses less bad. And that's exactly it. When we do miss, we want that club to kind of carry the weight for us a little bit more. I think there's less of a difference in clubs on a perfect strike and more of a difference on a not so perfect strike. So that's where it's, for me, I've been working on a little bit of that consistency by leaning a little bit on the equipment as I work to always improve my game and improve my ball striking, but by leaning a little bit and saying, if it can help me with a couple of those miss hits, because as you said, it can be the difference in making a green or not making a green. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was a big one for me. Mike, did you have any other questions about your fitting on your end?
No, I mean, it was, like I said, great results. Always love going through the fitting. We always encourage people to go through it, especially if they're looking at new clubs. Don't just buy off the rack, get fitted. So we're encouraging that always, and we've always had great experiences. I mean, Corey, just to give you a little background, I mean, Frank and I, we've improved dramatically since getting fitted in the AP line last year. I was a 16 handicap, I think maybe 2.5 to 3 years ago. So, we got fitted for the right ball. Frank's got fit into the Pro V1. Me into the Pro V1X. Now we're dialed into these the T-Series. So, overall, we're happy with where we are, but we're more excited now to get these things in the bag for the first time. And believe it or not, we get to play Baltusrol next Friday. So we will have the T-Series.
It's a good place to take them out for the first time.
To try them out, right? So we can't wait for that.
I love it. I love hearing that you've had great success through the fitting process. I think it's really one to touch on too, that we get a lot of questions all the time. Am I good enough? What's involved in a fitting? Am I going to get something out of it? Absolutely. I liken it to trying shoes on. I don't know anyone who doesn't try shoes on before they buy it. They cost $150, but you can't imagine me saying to Frank, hey, Frank, I know you're a 10.5, but today I want you to walk around the golf course in a 9.5. Don't worry about the blisters. You're going to walk a little funny. Right. Golf clubs and the golf balls are the same thing. We want to make sure that we get the right fit for you. It works with you and what you're trying to do with your golf game and your improvements. And then it gives you confidence to go out there and play to the best of your ability.
Yeah, look, for me, I can be 100% honest. I would not have thought to go with the mixed set if I hadn't gone through the fitting process. I think any other set of irons I've ever bought, I bought the, straight through the same, series all the way through, 4 through pitching wedge or 3 through whatever. So just that and trying that out and mixing it up with the T300s at the top and the T200s going down was, for me, I think that was a real eye opener.
Yeah, it's a great one to have. And we talked about that, the ball speed, making sure that we've got that good gap between them. I just moved countries recently, so I had to clean out the house, and there are a lot of 3 irons in the house that right. I just haven't used because at some point I did drop off in ball speed. So everyone at every level can always become more and more educated on that. And we've got plenty of options. It doesn't have to be the next setup or the next size up, because not everyone's going to like to do that. Maybe it's, hey, I like the set of T200s I've got, but for whatever reason, the 4 iron looks a little big in the T300. That's fine. Right. We have utility irons, we have hybrids, right. Fairway metals. So there's plenty of options for players. It's not meant to confuse anyone, but it's just meant to give us more and more options as a player. And that's really where going to see a fitter can help sort of dial in those numbers and find out which one of all these options is the best one for me.
Couldn't agree more, because sometimes you can kind of be a little bit overwhelmed by options. So just having someone who can work that through, that's why I put a hybrid in the bag, which I had never hit before. I'd never had a hybrid. I put one in the bag last year, and it's become my favorite club. So it just kind of like getting pushed out of the comfort zone, and it's another job of a fitter, so to speak, or a good fitter.
Well, Frank, you're being pushed out of your comfort zone with a mixed bag or a mixed set of irons now.
I am.
So
I am.
I think you'll push through. I think you're going to play well with them because you were striking them nice.
Look, so far, everything that Kevin has done for me from his fitting standpoint has worked out well. So I until he lets me down, I can't I can't go against his word. That's right. For sure. But all right, but Corey, tell me a little bit more about how our listeners can find out more about the T-Series iron. What's the best way to go about that? Should check out Titleist.com? Should they work with a local fitter? What's their best way to kind of dive in?
Both. And the starting place is Titleist.com. There's plenty of product information there. There's also plenty of opportunity to find the nearest fitter to you. So I'd always encourage people to get out there and go and get fit. Don't for a minute think that you're not good enough to go and do it. Don't worry if today the game's not quite on or I'm not swinging it how I like. Go and spend the time to get fit, because it really is. It's an educational process. You'll learn a lot, and you might come out like you did with a mixed set. And don't for a minute think that you're weird or different for doing it, because you only need to look at every tour event every week and look through the players' bags, and they really are mixed because they're trying to identify exactly what club they need for a certain purpose. So it doesn't matter if they're a tour player playing blades, MBs. There's still a lot of those players that once it gets to the 3 and 4 iron, even they need help with ball speed and launch. So no one's immune to that.
Makes me feel a little bit better, that's for sure. But what was the other thing I wanted to mention? Oh yeah, if somebody wants to just dip their toe, we talked about Titleist Thursdays before. I would imagine that these are going to be available at Titleist Thursdays going forward if someone wants to check that out.
Absolutely. Titleist Thursdays is a great opportunity to get one-on-one with a fitter. Hitting Pro V1s is the balls that you're being fit with as well. And we also have the opportunity to trial products. So on the same website, Titleist.com, you'll find the opportunity to either go and get fit, come and see us at a Titleist Thursday through the year, or if you want to spend time just on your own taking it out on the golf course, there are plenty of opportunities across the country to go and do that in your own time. Trial the different models. Trial something, take it out on course, then go and get fit for the right setup for you.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, finding the right head is a big part of it. And then for what we found, dialing in with the shaft it's so key. So key for us. But all right, but Corey, we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. It's really been just a lot of great information. Like I said, from the user standpoint, we were impressed with the feel and the look of the series. So it's good to get somebody like you on the show to talk about like what went into it, because it's something that it does always interest me. And also every experience we've had so far, even from the ball standpoint, or whatever, with the Titleist R&D team, you can kind of tell they've got a little bit of a competitiveness to them that they want to outdo themselves. And I think at the end of that is us, the people who are buying the clubs, that benefit from that competitiveness. So I think it was good that the AP line was performing so well to kind of like really push them to outdo themselves. And that my take is I feel like they've done that with this line. So we're excited to get them in the bag and start playing them.
I'm excited for you guys. It's Christmas morning when you get to open the box and then go and play Boltus Roll. Lucky you guys.
That's right.
I've got one question before I let you go. Did you get a chance to hit the utility irons?
Mike did. Mike, you hit it, right?
I did. I don't recall the outcome though. I just recall that the 4-iron was really better for me. I have 2 hybrids in the bag, and I went into the fitting asking Kevin, do I really need 2? I feel like I would hit the 4-iron better than the hybrid. So we tried the utility iron, and then we tried the 4-iron in the T200 set, and the T200 just worked out better for me. So I'm going to be putting that 4-iron in the bag, as well as having 1 hybrid now.
Right, that's exactly what that's there for. We have a bunch of players that love their hybrid, and it's certainly the easiest way for them to launch it up and get it going and then stop it on the green. But then there are some players that just don't like the look of that.
Right.
So for those players, that's exactly where that utility fits in. It looks like an iron, but it has this hybrid-like performance. So there's a lot of fun options in that long end of the bag. That's for sure.
Absolutely, there really is.
Kevin, I know, was raving about it. He doesn't, particularly like the hybrid. He's playing at a very high level, but what he says, I mean, one of his favorite clubs has been the utility. So he actually, Mike, he had you just hit his. Remember at one point to try his, right? Yep. Because he just raves about it. But that was the good news, is that even with the T200 and T300s going up to that 4-iron, you're able to also have that as another option. Just one more reason with the fitting, because there's just, like I said, a wealth of options. So.
Absolutely.
But Corey, again, we appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll check back with you after Baltus Roll and let you know how it worked out for us.
Do that. Send a picture through. That'd be great.
We will.
Thanks, guys.
Will do, Corey. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So like I said before, after we got a chance to experience the clubs firsthand, and this is like something that I always like to do, is if we have the opportunity to find out a little bit more, from the people who actually make the clubs, I like to take advantage of that. So it was good to get a chance to talk to Corey and bring him on the show, because like I said, we enjoyed hitting them. And it's good to know a little bit of the thought process of what went into it. And I like anything like that too, especially sometimes with some of that engineering stuff, Mike, can go a little bit over my head.
Yeah.
But I think just knowing how much they're thinking about and putting it into it, it gives me a little bit more confidence in my own game. Does that make sense?
It does make sense in a weird way. It does. And
knowing somebody else is thinking that much about my clubs makes me feel...
Yeah, right. Exactly. 100%. 100%. And when he was talking about tungsten and launching the ball higher, I mean, it didn't make sense, but it did make sense. Right. You know what I mean? So like, it made me feel good that, I got a club that's going to perform the way I want it to. But I got to tell you, in this, talking to a lot of the Titleist members, having them on the show, they all have a consistent theme. They're very knowledgeable of these products, and they're so passionate about it, which I love. So like, if there's anything you need to know about any of them, we've done it with ball fittings, club fittings. They just know their products. So I always love picking their brains.
They do. And I think the big takeaway for me here too is, again, it doesn't matter what clubs you end up playing, whether you're playing and trying out the new T-Series, or even if you're outside of the Titleist line. I think it's something to understand from that fitting process, and just the general amount of technology that's going into clubs, where it really truly is for people of our skill level that are going to get the most benefit. People who are a little bit higher handicaps, your non-scratch. And the reason I say that is because your world's best golfers can pretty much make anything work. They could go down to the thrift shop and buy clubs and beat us up. You know what I mean? Because they're so consistent in their ball striking, and they don't need a lot of technology in their clubs. Guys like us can use that technology a little bit more. So when they have that type of thing worked into it, we're experiencing more of a benefit. And what he said really hit home for me. The fact that you're still continuing to get that distance off of balls that, aren't a perfect strike. Something, struck a little bit outside what you would normally call like the sweet spot, basically making that sweet spot a little bit bigger. And the reason why to me that's so important is I'm not worried about it carrying its my max distance all the time. Right. However, you realize that we always think of distance as this ability to reach something, like reach your target. But something that misses in distance is still a miss. We talk about consistency being the most important thing. So like a little bit of a misstrike and you could end up coming up way short of the green or, way right. If some part of that technology can take some of that out for me and make that a little bit better, where it gives me almost like a little bit of a crutch to lean on, where it's not necessarily a terrible strike, but it's just not quite my best strike. And I can still rely on it to get to my target. Whereas with another club, I couldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect example. The most enlightening thing that we had this year was when we played Hickory Golf, right?
Right.
If you struck it perfectly, you could move that ball.
Sure.
But as soon as you didn't, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
Right?
Big time.
Big time. And that's because we're playing with clubs that are 100 years old. So it wasn't our perfect strikes that were the problem. It was, it wasn't that we wanted to get more out of our perfect strikes. It was that we wanted our not so perfect strikes to perform better. And that's what I saw largely with this, the new T-Series. They even kind of one up to what I saw with the AP line, where it was just my mishits were a little bit better. And you'll see in the video too, when you guys watch it, we had a couple of mishits. I remember one, Mike, you had this one strike that wasn't that great. And Kevin was like, no, he's like, that's good. Because he's like, the mishits tell me more from a fitting process, because I know where I need to fit you to kind of like make the bad shots less bad. So I thought that was a really interesting, kind of tying a bow on it. That was like one of the most interesting parts to me.
Yeah, definitely. All good stuff there.
Yeah. So guys, stay tuned. That fitting video is going to drop in a couple days. You'll see that, of course, in the Golficity app, as well as on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you guys get our content. You're going to see that. And then, like I said, it's got a lot of information baked into it. You can really kind of see the process, the fitting process, what goes into it, what some of the thought process is when it comes to selecting clubs and moving through the bag. We talked about lofts. We talked about gapping. We talked about everything once again in this video. So a lot of information. Very excited to share it with you guys, and stay tuned because we're also going to have a little bit, like I said, a little surprise in there for everyone. Big surprise. Our biggest surprise. Yeah. Biggest ever. So,
all right. Yeah.
We won't keep you guys any longer. Well, stay tuned for that. You're going to see it. Go to golficity.com/episode 293 to get to the show notes from this week. Or like I said, you can get them in the Golficity app, which is free to download. Go to golficity.com/app. Once again, we appreciate Corey taking the time to come on the show and talk to us a little bit about the clubs. And I'm sure we'll check in with him too as we use them, and any questions we may have. Any questions you guys have, make sure you post them in the comments or share them in the Facebook group. We love hearing from you guys. We'll see you again next week.